Photos of his victims, that was the backdrop for prosecutors today as they told a jury why Anthony Kirkland should be sentenced to die. Testimony began today in Kirkland's high-profile resentencing trial. His defense will make the case that Kirkland is mentally ill. 9 on Your Side has a team committed to this case, and our Tanya O'Rourke is leading our coverage right now. Tanya, we are actually reliving this trial, including the victims' families.
Yeah, you know, we all are, and them especially, Craig and Kristen. I'm sitting outside the Hamilton County Courthouse, and inside there is not a question of whether Anthony Kirkland is guilty or not. The question is, should he live or should he die? He's already been convicted of these murders and given the death penalty back in 2010 for the killing of Cassania Crawford and Esme Kenny. But the Ohio Supreme Court decided he needed to be resentenced, all because of a statement that Prosecutor Joe Dieter said during the first trial. Now, the first person, so that should bring you up to speed, I hope. And the first person to take the witness stand today happened to be Cassania Crawford's grandmother, Patricia Crawford, who happened to have custody of Cassania at the time of her death. Now, Patricia Crawford testified that Cassania was a good girl, that she got good grades in school, but that on occasion she would leave her grandmother's house without telling her. Now, the defense asked in detail about that on May 3rd of 2006. That's the day that Cassania Crawford was murdered. Patricia Crawford asked Cassania to lock the front door that night about 10:30. And when Patricia later went to check, she found out that Cassania was gone.
Well, yes, I'm figuring she's gone to her mom's because she had to go that way. And normally when she left out the house on them kind of terms, she would go to her mom's.
But Cassania never went to her mother's house. In fact, Patricia called school the next day. She called police, and Cassania wasn't in class the next day. It wasn't until, in fact, several days later that they came to her asking for dental records because they had found Cassania's burned body. Police and prosecutors say there is little doubt that Anthony Kirkland was brutal, animalistic. In fact, in these murders of 4 women, Esme and Cassania being just 2 of them. But there is one case that sticks out for Hamilton County's prosecutor, and my colleague Tom McKee is joining me here outside the courthouse with the story of the killing of Esme Kenny.
Well, that is very true. Now, Kirkland, we know, has stabbed, sexually assaulted, robbed, and strangled some of his victims, even burning their bodies. That includes Cassania Crawford, as you just talked about. It includes Mary Jo Newton, and it includes Kim Allison. But the one that sticks in Joe Dieter's mind is the murder of 13-year-old Esme Kenny.
March 7th, 2008, police fan out over Winton Hills after 13-year-old Esme Kenny is found murdered. July 25th, 2018, jurors deciding whether Anthony Kirkland should live or die for the crime visit the scene. The teenager went jogging around the reservoir that afternoon, the first time she did it by herself. Hamilton County Prosecutor Joe Dieter says her mother had a premonition that something was wrong.
The sad and pathetic truth is that this 5'2", 100-pound Esme had already been dragged into the woods on the other side of the reservoir by that man sitting right here.
He was pointing to Anthony Kirkland, who confessed to the murder in graphic detail.
He describes her gagging. He describes her vomiting. He describes her digging her little fingers into the ground as she's dying.
That killing followed the murders of Cassania Crawford, Mary Jo Newton, and Kim Allison. Defense attorney Tim Kutcher began laying the foundation of his case, saying Kirkland was abused as a child, suffered severe mental problems, but tried to get help.
He presented himself 8 times to try to get admitted to the hospital. Complaints of depression, I was upset. Suicidal ideation, mood swings. Diagnosis, major depressive disorder, recurrent. Bipolar disorder. Adjustment disorder with depressed mood.
And that's what Kirkland's attorneys are trying to prove, that he should not be put to death, as the prosecution wants, but that he should get life in prison without the chance of ever having a chance at parole. That's one of the 4 sentences that could be given by this jury, Tanya.
We know that tomorrow Esme Kenny's mother's testimony will be played. She will not even step foot into the state of Ohio, the city of Cincinnati, of course. But we do know from some folks who were in the court, I was told that some of Esme Kenny's relatives maybe some cousins or aunts or uncles were in the courtroom today crying as all of this was laid out for the jury in opening. So we'll keep an eye on that. Also, it should be noted, Joe Dieters has told us in the past his daughter was about the same age as Esme Kenny at the time of these murders. So I think that also reaches him very much. Coming up at 5:30, we're going to have an expert join us to break down what happened today in court. So we'll see you all then. But for now, Kristen, we'll send it back to you in the studio.